Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Spacemen From Pluto Podcast. I'm your host for this episode, James, and joining me is...
Ben.
Dan.
And Christian.
And for this week's episode, we are going to kick it off by just revisiting the Snyder Cut of Justice League, because as you can see, Dan is now with us for this. He sadly couldn't be with us for the main review. But before we get into that, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, just, share us about, engage with us, because it really helps boost the algorithm. So, Dan, what did you think of Zack Snyder's Justice League?
Well, I enjoyed it, I think, more or less.
Correct answer.
But it was a bit of a strange experience for sure. I don't know. It was. I couldn't decide if it was quite good or like dull. I still don't quite know. I still don't quite know what I watched. It was just kind of bizarre on several lessons. Yeah, it was a lot. It was almost 4 hours, obviously. So on that level, it was just a strange thing to go through, just sitting and watching a film for 4 hours. But the aspect I was kind of most interested in going in was how they would kind of deal with it being so long. Were they going to divide things up? How is it going to be paced? And I think like they essentially divided it into episodes, right, with the parts. So I kind of was a little bit disappointed at that, because it's obviously a logical thing to do, but I was just hoping for something a bit more adventurous or a bit more, I don't know, different or unique, Yeah, I mean, I didn't mind it. It provided sort of like natural break points during the film and everything, so that was fairly decent. The aspect ratio is a bit strange. I kind of liked it. I know that it's got its critics, but I kind of thought it gave the film like quite an interesting look, because considering it's a superhero film full of CGI and action and ridiculous stuff, having that aspect ratio, even though it's like the IMAX, supposedly IMAX ratio, it kind of made it look like an indie film.
Yeah.
So it just yeah, exactly. So it was just sort of strange in places, like the Anchorman scenes.
Anchorman?
Oh my god, shit. I was doing so well. The Aquaman scenes.
Yeah, it's really, why? I don't know why was Ron Burgundy necessary?
I don't know, to be honest.
I don't know. I loved it when the Justice League fought, the Channel 4 news team.
They just turned up.
It was a strange moment, but I just went with it, whatever. But yeah, the Aquaman scenes kind of look like a weird, pretentious perfume ad in places.
That slow motion sequence where it's got the music in the background and he throws the whiskey. It's like this is a little bit much.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. But it was just, I appreciated the weirdness of it. And the fact that obviously Zack Snyder had just been given free reign, and that's what he comes up with, sort of thing. And there was also the bit where those the girls of the village, the women of the village, come out and sing him into the ocean, and that was properly like some weird. It was like a very art house looking thing. Yeah, it was just very strange.
I saw something recently mentioning that they quite like the idea, because it's this idea of this strange man comes and visits this small village that doesn't have much outside connections. You probably would get an almost sort of like cult thing forming around him that follows him and worships him.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention this when we did our it was written down on my list and I completely passed it by accident.
Link in the description for the
yeah. I forgot.
Bit late. Sorry, we should say spoilers for just Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Oh yeah.
Bit late for that one. Ben, maybe throw up right before we go into it a little text of spoilers. Cut to this time code to avoid them.
No.
But anyway,
we don't spoil anything. It's fine. We haven't spoiled. The Aquaman perfume ad isn't the spoiler.
No, true. We haven't yet.
No. We have spoiled that Ron Burgundy isn't in it. Sorry.
I'm probably going to. I'll probably mention more and probably spoil it.
I was going to say I completely forgot to mention that sort of weird introduction to Aquaman where he wanders off into the sea and then all those women start singing. And I forgot to mention that I kind of fell about laughing when that one woman picks up his jumper and then sniffs it. And I was, what? Why have they got this random woman sniffing his jumper at the side of the ocean?
I will defend this woman now, because I've had this in the past where at university I acted in a film where, this is really awful, I won a boxing fight and then they were like handed me the prize shorts and I grabbed them and just like held them like this, and everyone in the screening was like, why did you sniff them? I went, oh, I didn't, I was just like, the director told me to do that, as if like celebrating, and it looked like I was trying to sniff shorts. So I think she's just gone for intense, like holding it close, and maybe it looks like she sniffed them.
No, she definitely went. She definitely pulls it up to her nose, inhales, and then pulls it down and holds it to her chest.
She huffs it, man.
I mean, to be fair, Jason Momoa just took it off. You know?
Exactly. If you had Jason Momoa's jumper, you'd give it a little sniff.
If you've got that Momoa musk, you want a good nostril full of that.
But it was weird though, because that specific moment, I remember from the theatrical cut, 'cause he takes it off and swims away. I do remember people saying, well, he's just left his clothes. it clears that plot hole. Like, where do his clothes? Oh, the lady's got him. It's a strange, very strange. That whole scene's. I remember when we were watching it, I was saying to Dan, like, Aquaman better come back and like bring like a giant whale, and it's some sort of like this. The people think it's like a ceremonial. They like if they don't sing, he won't come back, and he just cuts away. And I was like, oh, it is pointless. It's just they're just singing. And I was like, it would have been so cool if he had come back with like a big fish, and then they kind of like praise him, and then he swims away. At least have some sort of like
substance.
I don't know. It's the thing of like if they sing every time he leaves, he will come back at some point. I don't know.
Yeah, like some sort of like a godlike ceremonial thing, and it kind of just cuts away. So.
They don't really explain it. It's just a really weird moment, especially early on in the film. I felt like the first few scenes of that film, I was like, am I going to enjoy this? And when I sort of after the first hour, when it sort of started to push into the main bit of the film, I was like, okay, this is getting more what I thought was going to happen.
Had you seen the theatrical, Dan?
No, I hadn't seen the theatrical version, so I'm kind of curious to some extent to see what the changes are, but not that curious.
I did catch you the other day watching a YouTube video of lines from the theatrical. I caught you. I noticed.
Did you?
I was sat on my laptop. I just glanced over and you were watching clips of theatrical dialogue. I could have sworn it.
I think it was the Red Letter Media review that just went out. They spent most of the time talking about the theatrical version. That kind of brings me on to my sort of negative points, if you will, because that reminds me of something they said in that review where one of the criticisms was about Batman and how he didn't really have much to do in this film, and he felt, surrounded by these godlike characters, he felt a bit out of place. Because obviously he was playing the part of the leader and he brings everyone together and everything and fine. But then when it actually gets on the battlefield, he's kind of outclassed a little bit. And the part that made me laugh in the Red Letter Media reviews, and Rich Evans said something like, we're in the middle of this ridiculous CGI fest with Batman in that car and demons chasing him and everything and explosions going off everywhere. Meanwhile, someone's being mugged in Gotham City. it's like Batman doesn't belong here, really. But they're just trying the best. At one point, there's just a shot of him with like a laser gun shooting some flying thing, and it's more like Halo. It's like he could be the Master Chief. Yeah. But I don't know. But it was fine. It was, it is what it is. It's DC's current sort of interpretation of that character, so say what you will about it. I'm not a fan personally, but yeah, I'm not a fan of DC in general.
I've said it before, Dan, I'll say it again, you're just reading and watching the wrong DC content then.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, I said to Ben during it that, like, a lot of this just seems like a sort of photocopy of Marvel, like the way the characters are interpreted and the plot as well. Like, those mother boxes seemed like the Infinity Stones, they even had different colours. The characters are sort of vaguely similar to like how Marvel characters have been interpreted.
I said this. I said, DC must be kicking themselves now, because all I keep seeing online concerning stuff like Darkseid is I keep seeing people being like, oh, Darkseid's just kind of stands there and broods, and he's pretty much a Thanos ripoff.
Yeah.
And my favourite thing about that is that Darkseid in the comics came before Thanos, and Marvel ripped off Darkseid to make Thanos.
But I feel like, because the only reason that DC have actually even brought these characters to screen is because they see a marketability, because they have a similarity. Whether or not they came first or not is like irrelevant. They just see in the current kind of theatrical climate, there's a similarity there, and we can make money because people will think, oh, that's like Thanos, oh, that's like the Infinity Stones, oh, Cyborg is like a bit like Iron Man. Like, there's that one scene where Cyborg's basically like, it's a guy in a big metal suit and he's got jets on his feet and hands and he's like flying like Iron Man, and it's just like, oh, right.
He's got a centerpiece, a center light, like Iron Man.
Yeah, exactly.
There is that one. There is that one scene where we were watching, and I think it's towards the end, where he's flying through the demons, and he literally holds out his arms with lasers and spins around to cut up a few of the demons. And I was like, that's literally in Iron Man 2. That shot is in Iron Man 2.
Yeah, man.
I do think it's mad how often that happens, what Christian mentioned before, how because Marvel did it in the films first, and then DC introduced the character and goes, oh, DC ripped off Marvel. It's like, if you go back, it's like, DC brought that character in way before Marvel most of the time. Not all the time, but a lot of the time.
Marvel, for the comics part, ripped off DC constantly, but DC are just really upset and probably kicking themselves because everyone's being like, oh, you're just ripping off Marvel. And it's like, no, it's just that Marvel got the movie formula down way quicker than you have.
It kind of leads into a question to ask you guys. Would you want this universe to continue? If this was a blinding success, highest grossing movie ever by an extra billion, would you want this to keep going? These characters, this tone?
Yes, 100%. I really like the versions of them. I'm a huge fan of Ben Affleck's Batman. I think this film set things up, and then particularly comparing this to the other Justice League and seeing how much better it is, I'm like, yeah, clearly when they try and mix it about and do other things, it kind of falls apart. Let Snyder do his thing.
Part of me would like to see this continue. Like, even if they let him continue it as an aside thing, because like Marvel's about to get really, really messy with, you know, like Loki and stuff coming, and it's like, oh, this is an alternate dimension Loki. It doesn't really mean anything to the main timeline. We're just doing an alternate dimension thing. If they had the Snyderverse just run alongside the normal DCEU, I wouldn't have a problem with that. If they reinstated the Snyderverse, I wouldn't have a problem with that, because I do think it's a bit of a shame, because what he sets up in this film looks interesting, and the fact that they're like, oh yeah, we're not going to restate the Marvel universe because we've got plans, and it's like, but your plans
aren't
good. Your plans are to do the Flash film and just reset the franchise.
Speaking of which, I saw something earlier, and I don't know how official this is, so it could be complete bullshit, but there's rumours circulating at the moment that Keaton might not actually be available to do the Flash film, and Bale might replace the role instead, which would be a real shame.
Yeah, Ben's just...
I'm not joking, I'll take Clooney over Bale.
What's this? I don't know what.
Not in a bad way, I just like...
So to cut...
We've been there, done that. I'm kind of like, let's redeem Clooney.
So to cut a long story short, Dan, the sort of in Flashpoint, the comics, he goes back in time, saves his mum, creates an alternate timeline, and in that there's an older, more grizzled Batman who's played by Thomas Wayne. They were going to adapt that, and the idea was that we would see Keaton's Batman carrying on from his universe, where he's the older Batman, and where's that gone? They now might be replacing that with Bale, which I don't think works, because Bale's not old enough, and those films aren't old enough for it to work as well.
Just do Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yes.
Bale won't do it.
Yeah, just do Jeffrey Dean Morgan as the grizzled Thomas Wayne Batman, and get it done with. Because it was one of them things when they were like, oh yeah, we're gonna bring back Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and we might have him play Batman. Oh, and we're gonna bring Keaton back, and we might have him play Batman. Oh, Ben Affleck's coming back to play Batman. It's like, how many Batmen are gonna be in this film?
I just think
chuck them all in.
That's what I mean. It's just that again, isn't it? Like, I don't know what I think about that. Is it? I don't know if it's good or just really lazy. Like, they can't be bothered to think of like anything new, or they've just run out of stories. So now they're just collectively going, let's just go back to the old films and put them into the new films. Like literally, that's what they're doing. You know.
I do agree with you, Dan, completely. But you know, Michael Keaton ain't gonna be around forever. And if they're considering having Keaton come back, I now just don't care.
The thing is,
why
though,
not?
it's just it's just too kind of self-referential and like meta. Like this is a problem I reckon will happen with the Spider-Man supposed Spider-Man film with all the Spider-Mans in it. Is that like everyone's in on the joke, and it's not really like
you're gonna alienate your audience.
There's some kind of sense of the magic lost, because everyone's just aware that this is a film and everyone's an actor and they're all coming back to play this role, and it sort of like breaks the immersion in a way.
I don't know. I like it. I like the sort of in joke and like sort of bringing people into it. Well, bringing us into it.
Yeah, but it's sort of like all the big joke though. That's the thing. And like whereas like the original, but then it kind of cheapens it. Like my worry, like, I'm not saying this will happen for sure, but I think there's a risk that it'll just cheapen everything, because it's just like, oh, there's no rules anymore. We don't really care. Like we're all actors, and these characters are just daft characters, and we're all just having fun. And to an extent, I can respect that, because that's true. But then, like, if they've got to get the balance right, because it could just be like, it could just make it rubbish and like.
And this is
You
the
know
thing,
what I mean?
I trust them not to overstep the line.
I
I think
don't.
that's why I'm not worried. Yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing. It just comes down to you, does it? Like each person.
It's just a shame, though, 'cause, like, superhero movies are pretty passive anyway, because you just know they're gonna win and they're not gonna die. So you can't fully really get in it. And then when they tell you anyway, oh, he's gonna be in the sequel and so, it's just like you just like. You're not really like immersed in it. You're just watching it, not just letting it happen. Do you know what I mean? It's just a bit. It's like the innate problems with these superhero movies. It's just because you just know.
That's
I
why
would
it's just a shame.
I would say that the Suicide Squad has more stakes, including characters like the Weasel, King Shark, and Polka Dot Man. Because I doubt, I'm not sure how many of those sort of like F-list characters. They're not even D-list.
How many characters was that? I heard a lot of words. The Weasel, King Shark, and Polka.
No,
King
Shark's
Shark is one person.
King Shark is what? So you've got the Weasel, you've got King Shark, and the Polka Dot Man. So 3.
Yeah.
It could have been 4. It could have been 5. Could have been 1.
Yeah.
Could have been 10.
I mean, I think Suicide Squad has 26 characters.
They're not all like heroes though. Like, some of those will be like the villain, Amanda Waller.
I was going to say some
Rick
of them
Flag, who people apparently give a shit about.
Yeah, some of them are apparently getting killed off like almost immediately.
Do you think the Polka Dot Man's going to do that like in Home Alone? He's like polka. That would be like a soundtrack cue.
What's his thing? What's the Pokemon?
He throws polka dots.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
He throws polka dots.
He's like from the era of comics, from like really early Batman days, where they were just ridiculously stupid.
Oh yeah, he's a Batman
stuff.
villain.
Yeah. So like, you know, Adam's West Batman 60s show?
Yeah,
he's like that kind of character, and they're going to try and make him real life. So like,
he throws explosive polka dots.
Yeah, so it's like
Turns out he's got PTSD from all the explosions or something. That'll be interesting. Yeah. Can't wait.
It's going to be wacky.
Yeah. King Shark is a giant shark. The Weasel is a giant weasel.
King Shark. I know about. Oh yeah, it's not King Croc. It's Killer Croc. Isn't it?
Yeah.
But he's just a big crocodile.
Yeah, similar concept.
Yeah.
Could be brothers.
Could be lovers.
They could be both.
No, I was going to say that, but then I thought, no, I won't.
Love is love, Dan. Love is love. We got completely off tangent. Ben and Dan, would you want to see Snyderverse continue, or do you want to just sort of revert back, like carry on with what they've got so far?
Not really. It's just very bleak, and no one's got really any personality, and it's not very fun.
It's kind of weird though, isn't it, Ben? That now everyone's kind of on board for like the sequel to what we've just seen, with the Martian Manhunter floating down and saying got other films to do.
It's just very.
That was not a good moment.
It just seems a bit. It's just because it's
I
like
to talk to you about the Justice League initiative.
Maybe if he didn't bring, not in a mean way, if he didn't bring Zack back, because I just think it's so surface level. It's like, we'll just throw in this suit, we'll throw in this car, and we'll make it look, because it looks nice. It's not like anything to do with like if it's accurate and if it's portrayed well, and it's just
he does love his comic panels.
Yeah, like he's literally only about the image. That's actually it.
I mean, I will say that if they do carry on this, I would want them to change up the characters a bit so that it wasn't the Flash and 5 Batmans.
Like he willingly chose to make that Batman Joker interaction. That's the bar.
Yeah, I did want to mention that.
Like I can't, like, if there's a world where I can have another version of more Ledger versus Bale, I'll take that over that any day.
Yeah.
I do think if you could say, pick one thing in the Snyderverse tone, if he's going to come back for one, what are you going to have? I do it, just have him, because it's not accurate at all, just have it do an out and out nightmare, mental, everything's murdery. Just if he's going to, like, because it's so half and half, you can't do like a half a bit like the books, but the swearing, it's just so weird. Just go all in. I think just let him go mental with it, because I don't know, just because like if they keep the Snyderverse going, it's just going to be them fighting another big grey man. And it's just like, what?
Might be a big grey woman.
No, it's Darkseid, isn't it?
No, you can't jump straight to Darkseid.
He's the third film.
Yeah.
Like, the second
You've got to
film,
have your Age of Ultron.
The second film, it'll be that guy who was wearing like the chainmail hood or whatever.
Desaad.
Just so that we can get to like the same end point. Like.
Yeah.
We just get to the same. We'll get to the exact same battle as we had in Infinity War, and Darkseid kind of / Thanos will probably be a rip off of Thanos and have some depth or hidden kind of. Oh, is he a bit right? Oh, I don't know. That's interesting. And then his head will be chopped off.
The only thing I want to see from Darkseid particularly is I want to see him hands behind his back, floating around, firing them janky lasers out of his eyes.
Yeah, I'll take that.
I mean, they did it once in the
beams.
Snyder Cut, and that was a nice little tease. But I just want that.
Yeah, like if they just made like 10 minutes of Henry Cavill running away from the Omega beams, I'll just like, okay, I don't need 4 hours. I'll just have that.
It doesn't matter though, because like Spider-Man, because Superman died.
And then he came back.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't
always
matter, man. It's like, he died, but we'll just bring him back with a box.
Yeah.
And have 5 more Superman films. I don't know. It's just, you've caught me in a cynical mood. I'm sorry.
I think the real question going forwards from the Snyder Cut is, though, obviously the only reason we got this film is because there was such a huge campaign online for it. Do we think we could start seeing more of these? Do we think we're going to see a change in the sort of like landscape of film with studios buckling to fan pressure more?
Yeah, the question is this a good thing?
Have they set a precedent?
Is this a good idea that fans can kind of tell the movie studios almost what to do, and how the lengths that particularly some members of this movement, the lengths they went to, and they've been rewarded for it? Is this really a good precedent that they have now set, is the question.
I think that this was like a real, like, while it doesn't kind of bother me that it happened, I think it was a real dangerous move, because you've already got the fact that it's happening. You've already got people calling for them to reinstate the Snyderverse, and Warner Brothers have already put their foot down and said that's not happening. But
for now.
But now that they've said it's not happening, people are just going to campaign harder. David Ayer has riled people up and been like, come on, Ayer cut, Suicide Squad.
I don't think that was genuine.
And Warner Brothers have been like, that's not happening either. But I think we could start seeing some studios start buckling to fan pressure and doing storylines or films based purely on what fans want to see.
I think this is a real outlier. I don't think this is going to be a thing that we see more of, if any more of going forwards. I think this was a case of, we're in the midst of a pandemic, films were getting pushed back, nothing was getting released and nothing was getting filmed. Warner Brothers sat there and went, how can we make a film without filming? Oh, well, there's this film that we've got all the footage from, and there's a big demand for it online. Yeah, we'll roll that out because we can. I don't think that this is going to be a new thing going forwards.
Like I was thinking about this today, and of course my background hints towards the fact that Sonic had such a push, and they managed to get that done, which was pre-pandemic. And the other thing I was thinking about was, of course, Last Jedi came out, huge fan outcry about how horrible that film was.
Wait, Christian, pause for the jingle.
Everything comes back to Star Wars.
I was wondering, I've got notes on Star Wars.
Yeah, but Rise of Skywalker is literally just bit by bit fan service. Like they throw in everything pretty much that fans have always wanted to see, which is why that film is such a mess.
And they also are reversing Last Jedi's elements because fans moaned for years over the internet. It's total pandering.
Wait, what are you on about? What do you mean it's reversing Last Jedi is reversing the Last Jedi's moments?
No, Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, Christian said Last Jedi.
Yeah, and then I said Rise of Skywalker.
Then he moved on.
Oh, I missed that.
Sadly, James, we are talking about the Rise of Skywalker again.
Yeah.
I think that's about 7 weeks in a row now. That he's got a name
It's
drop.
18 weeks in a row, let's be honest.
It still hurts. It still hurts.
No, I thought you were going to mention with Last Jedi, because obviously there is that campaign for that to be remade. Everyone didn't like that when it came out, and they went, oh, redo it, we don't like it. And they've never buckled to that. I think if it weren't a pandemic and there weren't already a big online petition for Snyder Cut, we would never have got this film.
But I think that Rise of Skywalker was Disney buckling a little bit, because
yeah, I agree.
Last Jedi came out, and of course it was Colin Trevorrow who was meant to do
Colin Trevorrow.
Yeah, he was meant to do Rise of Skywalker, and as soon as Last Jedi got backlash, they were like, you're out. J.J. Abrams is back in. J.J., write us a script that includes Chewbacca getting his medal, and it involves Palpatine, and it involves Lando's back. It involves all that stuff about Star Wars that people love.
But Disney, the media PR juggernaut, would have you believe that this is all kind of, the fans may have influenced them, but it was their decision. And it's their vision for the characters, and they have respect for the fans.
There's a difference
that's why
between
they did it.
buckling to fans and reacting to feedback and reviews. They didn't go, oh, sorry, fans, what do you want? Okay, we'll give you exactly that. They took a look at Last Jedi and went, oh, okay, they didn't like that. Let's go back to more of what they think they will like.
You mean the bit like when Luke caught the saber and said, a Jedi shouldn't throw this away or something? That's directly taking a middle finger to the Last Jedi.
Please let's not talk about
100%.
the Rise of Skywalker again. I've just had a conversation
and the whole thing about
Snoke.
Snoke is nobody. Oh no, he's a guy in a jar that Palpatine made. It's directly reversing Last Jedi elements that people moaned about. There definitely is 100%.
Yeah,
I
but
would argue it's reactionary than it is buckling, because I don't think fans didn't ask for what happened in Rise of Skywalker. They just went, oh, well, they didn't like Last Jedi, let's give them what we think they like. They demanded
these answers. And I think Colin Trevorrow's original, they wouldn't have done any of this.
I was going to say, if Last Jedi had been fine, then this film wouldn't have...
Yeah.
It wouldn't have gone on. If fans hadn't have outcried so much after Last Jedi, then... They'd just carried on with Colin Trevorrow's.
That's my biggest issue with this film now, is how just kind of sad it is that's it. That is how the Skywalker saga ends now. We can't change that until they give us the Trevorrow cut.
Another kind of positive of one of the fans kind of going against one of the movies, in the Hellboy movie a couple of years ago, they cast an actor, the guy in Deadpool that was the bad guy, the bald guy.
Ed Skrein.
Yeah, he was cast in a role where the comic book character was an Asian role, and the internet was like, what are you doing? This guy's Asian, you should just cast an Asian actor. And then he left. He was like, oh, I've heard everybody, I'm going to leave the film. And they cast Daniel Day Kim in the role.
I was going to say, I don't remember Ed Skrein being in that film.
Yeah, he left, and then they cast
cool.
They cast Jin from Lost. That's kind of a cool little neat... because if he was playing that character, you're adapting this source material, and he's of Asian descent, it's a part of his character. Maybe just cast
Yeah.
a famous
Asian
Asian
man.
actor,
Yeah.
and then they did. So, and
That's
like,
that's reacting to fan backlash though, because if you don't, it will bite into the profit of the film, and I think that's kind of what it
Oh
comes
yeah,
down
'cause
to.
after that change, that film was a real moneymaker.
Yeah, no, of course. But I think
10 out of 10.
I think what it comes down to, though, like I said, I am in a cynical mood, and I do apologise to people watching and listening. But I think it just comes down to that. Yeah, they'll go the fan way. If fans have any kind of desires for a film, they'll go down that route if it's profitable. And I think the reason at the end of the day they made the Snyder Cut, the pandemic definitely played a part, but they took their chance with it. They thought, right, now is the time to actually appease the fans. We get a bit of goodwill with the fans, and we also, make bank because people want to watch this film, people want to pay for this film,
Also, Warner Brothers had a huge investment in HBO Max, and they were like, how can we make sure that people are subscribing to this and not Netflix and Amazon and Disney Plus? I know, Snyder Cut.
I saw a news thing saying, because remember a while ago they were like, oh, we're not showing any movies in cinemas or something. They did that. I think they've already gone back on that, didn't they? Like, they struck some deal with Cineworld, or they bought Cineworld.
No, I thought the plan was always that they were going to release on HBO Max in tandem with cinemas when they could.
They were going to release them both at the same time in cinemas and on streaming. They've now kind of gone back on that and said that cinemas will have a 45-day exclusivity window, and then they'll come to HBO Max and stream and video on demand.
Christ.
Is it in all cinemas or just in Cineworld? There's something to do with Cineworld.
Yeah,
Cineworld doesn't exist anymore.
I thought I read. I've really rewritten history and not paid attention.
Was it AMC?
No, it is a Cineworld thing.
Okay.
They've
So
brought it back and made it
apparently
exclusive, just Warner Brothers or something.
I was going to say, apparently, if that goes ahead, because the first article I read said UK cinemas, the second one I said Cineworld. So if that goes ahead, then it means that other cinemas in the UK will not get Warner Brothers films as of 2022.
Yeah.
You don't think they'd strike a deal with UK branches of a different cinema?
Well, it's also an exclusivity deal, so maybe it's like other UK cinemas would get it, but only after those 45 days when it goes onto streaming.
Honestly, I think it's just a matter of time until the studios just pull the trigger and just buy out the cinema chains.
I was literally about to say it's one step away from Netflix having a cinema chain.
Yeah.
When View and Odeon go, or AMC go in America, Netflix and Amazon will step in, and it'll be Netflix only.
Yeah.
In a cinema or Amazon, it's so gonna happen.
I could feasibly see that as a thing though, like Amazon owned cinemas where you sign up for Amazon Prime or whatever it's called then, and you sign up for
your phone with your membership on your phone on your app or something.
Like you pay an extra subscription for a month, and you're allowed as unlimited films, and you just wander in there.
You just go in and scan and go in.
I mean, I was going to say Amazon already have those stores that they're setting up that have no checkout system. You literally just put stuff in a basket. It knows what items you put in your basket, and then as you leave, it takes the money off your card.
God, that's freaky. That it's not good.
Oh, it's like something out of Black Mirror. It's not. It's just an advanced shop. Let's all calm down a bit. What a great sort of progression that Netflix will go through from being you order DVDs online, they get sent to your house, to going fully online, to going back into actual physical thing.
And then they'll somehow become like a political party or something as well. That'll happen.
Yeah,
we will remake The Rise of Skywalker.
If you vote,
make Star Wars great again.
If you vote for us.
And then they get into power, and then they've got the nuclear codes.
I was going to say, it's like, now it's currently like, in this country it's Conservative or Labour. In the future it'll be, do I want to vote Netflix or Amazon?
Yeah.
Netflix, definitely. Actually, no, probably. I don't know. I can't decide. This is a harder choice than Labour versus Conservative.
I'd vote Amazon. I don't know if that makes me a Tory. I don't know.
I mean, Amazon's colour is blue.
Exactly.
Sick. Horrible.
Can't believe we're getting political on the Spacemen From Pluto podcast.
Sorry, don't get political.
This is interesting. It's taking a cool turn.
I mean, we're not getting too political. We're talking about if Netflix and Prime were the two political parties you had to choose
Which you
from.
vote for?
The Prime Party. Yeah.
Disney are the fascists, aren't they? So.
This is what I mean. Fan backlash and like pandering to fans isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes the fans are right.
James, I'm surprised you've not mentioned a certain film, actually, because that's a very good example of backlash from fans, isn't it? I'm pretty sure everyone knows what I'm talking about, surely.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a classic. That was another classic of they were not wrong.
Yeah, no, the fan backlash to Sonic was warranted.
I still kind of subscribe to this whole theory of it was all one big advertising campaign. Yeah,
My theory. It's
quite
fake.
like it.
It's all fake just to get people to talk about it. The same way they leaked Justice League over Tom and Jerry so people would watch Tom and Jerry. It's all
It's
fake,
all a conspiracy.
man. Yeah.
I still remember when we were...
The truth is out there. I believe.
But yeah, I don't know if it was pre-planned though. I reckon it was just... I don't know what it was. Maybe they genuinely did think it was...
I think it was genuine just because the whole crunch time that they put all the animators into, like it was a whole thing, and it wasn't a good PR move for them, really.
One example of fan like pseudo backlash that I'm actually not a fan of that stifled a creative vision is whether it was good or bad, it's your opinion, but like when in Prometheus, when like the alien isn't in it, deliberately so, and Ridley wanted to go a different route, not involving the alien. People moaned about it, being like, "Oh, where's the alien?" And then he went, "All right, you want your alien? Here it is." And then he had to do that Alien Covenant thing, and I think he even knew it. It was like, "This isn't good," and then it wasn't that good. And it's like, well, that's what you wanted. It was crap.
Remember in Prometheus how like the what were they called? Like the engineers, were they called like precursors or something? That opening scene to Prometheus is like genuinely like, I remember watching that for the first time and thinking, what is this? This is really like, it's grabbed me, you know, because the guy it's like an intense look for those engineers, and I was really interested in their sort of backstory and how did they get there? Who are they? Blah 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 blah. And Prometheus kind of like upheld that mystery a little bit for most of it. It wasn't, the film had a lot of problems, but I don't think the treatment of those engineers was necessarily the worst of them. But then Covenant comes along, and Jesus, oh my God, like I remember seeing like it goes to a flashback or something, doesn't it, where it shows all like a massive like crowd of these engineers, and they're just blokes. They're just guys. One of them's wearing a baseball cap. Seriously, it's like, what are you doing? Like, you've completely ruined this. Well done. Like, just so bad.
Yeah, but they gave us a scene that had sexual tension between Michael Fassbender and Michael Fassbender.
That, to be fair, was
incredible.
It is
a brilliant scene.
That was pure Kino. Like that is. I am happy that exists.
I remember sitting in the cinema, and that scene was the moment that I completely checked out of Covenant. I was like,
that was where
I checked in.
Yeah,
I was in. Oh, I'm in now. Oh, this is off the rails.
I mean, it is a hilarious scene, and absolute props to Michael Fassbender for not only acting out that scene to the like highest of his acting abilities, but acting out that scene to the highest of his acting abilities twice.
Are there any... So, we've spoken a bit about fan backlash that did happen and, change was made. Are there any sort of, like, ideas or maybe sort of seeds of backlash that have come about? Or, like, alternate versions of films that almost happen that you'd quite like to see?
I want to see the original Cats that was patched.
Was it that different? I thought it was just, a bit of a slight graphical improvement.
They had buttholes.
I mean, there was a lot of weird.
No.
Apparently, yeah, it's true, and they were patched
true.
out. James, it's incredible.
You're telling me I was robbed of seeing Idris Elba's cat butthole?
What a strange, horrible film.
They were showing it at the place of your work, James, and you didn't know about it.
I just find that idea though, that like the film gets released, that it comes in on a hard drive, or it comes in over the bloody internet these days,
Yeah.
and it's beamed directly to the projector.
There you go. Here's some insider information for everyone watching and listening about how we get films. They're just on a hard drive.
It's just
Yeah.
a USB.
It's a glorified DVD player. It just made me really sad.
What's even worse is
the art of the projection and the projectionist is so lost.
Well, it's like when
Yeah.
you find out it's not even like someone goes on and plays them. It's all an automatic system at the start of the day. It gets set up, and it's essentially a playlist of films that
I was gonna say-
runs through the day.
I was going to say it's like 20 projectors hooked up to a single like Dell laptop.
It's really interesting though that, like, because of the new projectors and the digital nature of the delivery of the content, you can now have a film like Cats, which has like graphical mistakes, visual effects mistakes, that can then literally be patched out in a couple of days, and they'll just upload a new version of the film to the projector, and it's like, right, okay, where's that old version gone then? Did it ever really exist? Kind of thing.
That this beautiful age of the internet where like it's the same in games. Like someone can release a broken game, and then a few days later there'll be a 4 GB patch, and they'll be like, there you go, fixed it.
That's it, yeah. That's it. I was going to mention that, actually, like how it's becoming more and more like the video game industry, where films aren't quite finished. maybe this kind of idea of like fan service will be taken to the extreme, where it's like in a week later the reviews are in, and they'll somehow just put it all through a computer and go, here's the new scenes you wanted, or just patch them in. Oh god,
It's a bit like getting to the point of like it's a Bandersnatch where you just pick what you want.
Yeah.
Like, do you want Thanos to just snap at the end of Endgame and win, or do you want the good ending, or the renegade ending, or the Paragon ending? Like, it's a bit like it's kind of getting there.
Is it in a Simpsons episode? I feel like I've seen this concept at some point where like you're in a cinema and it gets to a certain point and it's like, if you want this to happen, press your blue button. If you want this to happen, press the red button, and everyone in the cinema votes, and then the most popular vote goes forwards. It goes down that line. I feel like I've seen that in something.
I think that is like a Simpsons thing or something.
It
like
sounds very Simpsons.
Yeah.
Simpsons predicts, it could
Simpsons
be
did it.
anything.
I was going to say that if that actually happened, I mean, to be honest, I'd actually be kind of for that.
It's interesting. It's I wouldn't want all films to be like that, but it's a cool experiment.
Imagine
No,
every film.
I know.
Films will take so long. Like if they pause every 30 seconds to have a vote.
I know that they did a similar thing with the Telltale games a while ago. They updated all the Telltale games so that you could have a party watch of the Telltale games, where up to 6 people hook up their phones, and every time an option comes up, you all vote on what option you want to see, and the most popular vote continues the story.
Okay.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
So I reckon we could start seeing that with films as
That's
well.
more like a theme park ride, though. Again,
Yeah.
the idea of the film being a theme
It's
park ride.
interactive.
Yeah.
One sort of like alternate version of a film I don't know if I'd want to see, because the version we got was genuinely really good. And I think I've mentioned it on previous podcasts. I'm still quite interested to see what Edgar Wright would have done with Ant-Man. Being one of my, if not my number one favourite director with my favourite series, I'd be very interested to see what those two look like when you mesh them together. I think with his sort of fondness for extreme close-ups, there's some really cool stuff you can do with a hero that shrinks down so small. Just a bit of style on on one of the Marvel films, I think would be very interesting to see. There's been no backlash and demand for it, so let's start it right here, right now. Hashtag give us the right cut.
Give us the Edgar Wright cut, yeah.
There's one that is happening that I am very happy about. I don't think it's relevant at all, but there is going to be a director's cut of Rocky 4 from Stallone himself.
Yeah, and he's taking the robot out.
No,
There's a robot in Rocky 4.
more robot. Yeah, there's a robot butler.
He's gone on record and he
Yeah,
said, I'm taking the robot out.
Yeah, a bit of a shame that. I think he might be. I don't know if he's going to add more, have less montages as well.
It's just one big montage.
Yeah.
Well,
Just
the
3 hours of him running up the Philadelphia
The
steps.
theatrical cut kind of is one big montage, James.
I haven't
one-
seen that before.
What?
I thought you knew that, Ben.
Well, it doesn't matter, because in general we're going to go through all of them anyway, so it doesn't matter. There's one I genuinely would really kind of love. It's quite Snyder Cuttery. The Emperor's New Groove.
Danny's
I'm
going
on board.
to walk out.
I'm on board.
Was not originally meant to be The Emperor's New Groove. So it was originally going to be called Kingdom of the Sun. And it was like a little bit different. It was going off like things like The Lion King and more like going off that kind of Shakespearean style. They were going to do more like a Prince and the Pauper tale. And they had this stuff written. And it was going to be the Prince, or the Emperor, David Spade, was going to switch roles with a pauper that looks just like him, played and recorded voiced, I think, by Owen Wilson. And they even had Sting come in to do the Elton John style soundtrack for it, like The Lion King.
Sting?
Yeah, but I think he actually recorded stuff, and they got like this far along and stuff. I think he then gets turned into the llama by Yzma, and then because I think there was various reasons why I can't quite. I had it written down, but I've lost it. Probably because of I think it was some other films like Pocahontas didn't do as well. They just scrapped the whole thing and like rewrote it and started like again, and brought in Patcher, John Goodman and stuff like that. So there is, and I think they even I haven't watched it. There's like a documentary about this, like a fan made thing. And so there is kind of like a Snyder Cut version sat on a shelf where you could just, like Snyder Cut, put in 70 million, just reanimate it or newly animate it, get the cast back, like Snyder Cut, bring it all back, and Sting's music's probably still there. I don't think his music's in the original. I don't recall, maybe in the credits. I don't recall a Sting
I don't
song.
think so.
Yeah, so I thought, I'd actually be quite interested in, because I love Emperor's New Groove. It's one of my childhood favourites. Is it timeless? Is it trash? I don't know. So that'd be one I'd actually be really excited for. I'd love that.
I feel like we see that a little bit. Like, it's not uncommon, particularly with Disney's animated films, that when you look at like early development, that they were completely different. I tell you what, speaking of Disney and alternate versions, I would be quite interested. I don't think it would be as good, but I would still be interested to see the other version of Toy Story 3 we almost got, when there was all that whole issues with Pixar split off from Disney, or Pixar, there was some arguments with contracts and stuff between Disney and Pixar. So Disney went, screw you, we're going to make this other animation studio. I can't remember what it was called. And they wrote storyboards, they had whole plans, there's concept art for this third Toy Story 3 film. And then it was a thing of like I think the employees came in one day and Disney just went, yeah, we're actually going back to Pixar, you're all fired, we'll see you later. And used, and like there's certain things that have made it into the final version of Toy Story 3. So I think the original plan was that Buzz was malfunctioning, so he got shipped back to Japan to get him fixed. And then it turns out they're not fixing the toys, they're just sending new ones. So all the other toys go to Japan and try and save him. So you have certain things that got brought into it. So obviously the whole having to fix Buzz, and then he malfunctions and becomes Spanish. The idea of them being in jail at one point, and I think this other version had the Lotso hugging bear type character where you think he's a nice old guy and then he's the villain kind of thing.
Right, I had no idea about any of that.
It's yeah. There's videos out there and loads of concept art of it. It's just interesting. I don't think it would be as good because Toy Story 3 is just perfect.
I watched Toy Story 3 a few times. Yeah, I didn't know that they'd because I know that Disney have obviously changed a few films, because apparently the entire sort of second half of Lilo and Stitch was originally completely different. And I know that they changed certain sequences because of what happened with the Twin Towers.
The plane.
There's an entire sequence where they were at the end of the film. They were meant to be flying a Boeing plane, and it was meant to skid along the side of a building. And then in the final edit, they're flying an alien spaceship, and it skids along the side of a mountain. But I know that they originally wrote an entirely different, like more downbeat ending to the end of Lilo and Stitch that didn't leave it open for sequels, but Disney saw potential in it and were like, no, sequelize it.
All right. I haven't watched it, but I'd love to watch it. Apparently there's like loads of footage. The original cut of The Thin Red Line, this World War II Terrence Malick war movie. Yeah. The original cut was like 5 hours long. I've got it written that so much was cut that people like Bill Pullman, Mickey Rourke, Viggo Mortensen, and Gary Oldman were cut completely. And
They're big names to cut completely out of a film.
And people such as John Travolta, George Clooney, and Adrian Brody were reduced to near cameos in the film because so much got cut.
I'm pretty sure George Clooney, and if you look on the IMDb page, there's like a couple big names, and I'm pretty sure George Clooney's one of them where it says in brackets next to his name uncredited.
Yeah, right. Because they're just barely in
because
it
he
now.
doesn't say anything.
So like, there's this fat 5-hour war movie epic that I'd be quite interested to watch sitting on a shelf.
It'll all come out eventually. Like this stuff, I reckon it'll all come out because we've started to set a precedent, haven't we? That kind of stuff is viable and people will be interested in it. I reckon.
I don't think to the level of Snyder Cut. I don't think they'd go away, create a whole new version, refilm scenes, touch up CGI, but they might just go, look, here's the footage that we have.
Yeah,
we're not going to do SFX and all that stuff on it.
It depends how fast you can do the SFX, I suppose.
Well, the thing is, if they put the footage out online, people will just do it. People will make it at home. You've seen some of the where people fix the original Justice League. They're like, right, the Superman mustache stuff looks janky. The Luke Skywalker face swap in Mandarin looks janky. So people just at home touched it up. If they released the footage, people would make these films.
It's mad, isn't it? Like a few days after the Mandalorian episode with Luke Skywalker, people had fixed it.
Made it
and
better.
It's like, what?
It is annoying. That's annoying that Disney could just do.
But do you think it's an element of it's like, one person has to go, right, I'm just going to sit down and fix this very small scene, and that's it. They're not having to work on a whole show, and it's not like, right, okay, so I've got to do this Luke Skywalker face and all these other special effects. Like, although one person's one singular objective.
To be fair, though, that scene should be treated in a vacuum anyway, because it's so kind of important that you just think, right, let's get someone who's get like a team on this that are ultra focused on getting it right.
It should have been better.
Yeah, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't.
Not saying
it was terrible.
Fine.
It was terrible.
Christian, what did you want to say?
I was going to say I've got a couple, and I've got a couple that I'm going to throw out there just to very quickly wind up Dan, because I'm sorry. I didn't know you were in a cynical mood when I wrote
I think that's fine. He's really mellow and calm right now.
I was going to say he's really mellow and calm.
When is he not in a cynical mood? Where's this happy-go-lucky Dan that I don't...
over a new leaf?
I don't know about.
Turned it back over, apparently.
But the real one I want to get to is the original cut of the 2011 The Thing.
Oh, cool, with the practical effects they
exactly.
got rid of.
They basically, the 2011 film The Thing is not a remake of The Thing, it is a prequel to The Thing that's also called The Thing.
Yeah, it's really good, that, isn't it? Really good idea.
And yeah, it's very confusing. But it's based, we're also living in a world where the sequel, the now canonized sequel to Halloween is called Halloween, so...
One-word film titles really irk me, because particularly when you call it It or Thing, it makes it so hard.
No, it's
to,
The
actually
Thing.
Talk about it. Nah, it's Thing.
It's definitely not, but okay.
But it's like people rarely say The Thing. Everyone's always like John Carpenter's The Thing, because just saying The Thing is too ambiguous.
It's because it's in the film, isn't it? He puts his name on it as well, though.
Yeah. It's like you have to say Stephen King's It.
Yeah.
This is such a small thing that really isn't that much of an issue, but
does Psycho really bother you?
Yeah.
Like The Shining.
I don't know. When I say in general, it's basically just the
Predator.
Thing,
does that really annoy you?
No, because I feel
Prisoners, Interstellar, Inception,
wow,
Batman, Iron Man, Thor.
James leaves the call. He's having a break. He's ripping his posters down. What's up? DVDs are scattered everywhere.
But yeah, I really want to see the original version of the 2011 The Thing, because basically what happened was they were big fans of the John Carpenter The Thing, and basically did a prequel, and they absolutely sort of nailed some of the continuity of how stuff went down in the Norwegian base, because for people who haven't seen the thing, it starts on the American base with the Norwegians turning up, shooting at a dog and not a lot is explained because they're just screaming in Norwegian. The prequel shows what happens at the Norwegian base, that they do visit throughout John Carpenter's thing, and it shows you like how the axe gets in the door, how certain people die, and they pretty much nail it. The problem was that the original cut has all of it done with completely practical effects, like the 1980s like original film it's based on.
Behind the scenes footage, you can see it all as well.
And they really paid attention to the practical effects and recreating John Carpenter's sort of vision to do a prequel. The studio then watched the film and went, we don't think people are going to like this because it looks cheap and naff and nasty, so we're going to get someone to cover it up entirely with CGI.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
So they completely overly CGI the film, and it ended up being a hot mess that is hated by people who hadn't seen the original and have.
I think, like, literally as well, they just took... Literally, they didn't, like, change the designs or anything. They just took the same thing. Like, they took James, and they just CGI'd him. Like, that's just what they did. The exact, like, one-to-one scale.
Yeah, they had designs for the thing in certain scenes. You know, like in the original, they had like it was basically them just taking the spider head and being like, oh, the spider head looks janky in practical effects. Let's just CGI exactly the same sequence. And it's like, just leave it alone.
Well, no, because the really bizarre thing is they've got the framework for the perfect combination of filmmaking where it isn't all of either one. You've got good practical effects. Now just touch them up with CGI, because that's where you get your best results from, is the two working in tandem. It's very odd choice to say we'll do all CGI.
Yeah, they just completely replace. There's barely a remnant of a practical effect left.
Especially when you look at it, and it's not even like it's obviously fake and doesn't look that good.
I'm pretty sure there's even a point in the film where a character gets like his throat slit, and in the version that's out there, they literally do like CGI blood spray, and it's like, why? They had practical.
It's like it's so weird, like just the extra money going for this kind of the same result.
You spent a lot of money to ruin your film.
Yeah. Very well. It's Justice League. It all comes back to Justice League. Like, it's very strange some of the choices made in these. It's just like these movie execs, man. They don't know what they're doing. Christian, would you like to watch the 300 cut, but it's take all the inaccurate bits are cut out, so it'd be like 2 minutes of footage?
It's just a TikTok.
While I was searching today, because for those who don't know, because I mentioned this before the podcast, but was it you that mentioned it, James? That Snyder Cut is literally it's got 24 minutes of it's got 24 minutes of slow-mo, meaning that 10% of that movie is in slow motion. And I went back and did the same with 300 and figured out that 12% of 300 is in slow motion based on its runtime. And I found there is a fan edit of 300 online where someone has redone the entire film but taken out every single bit of slow motion.
I'd be curious to see how much of Watchmen's slow motion as well. There's quite a bit of that slow.
Yeah.
The whole beginnings in slow motion. I think the whole opening inciting scene slow motion. Talking to Watchmen, I do a recut where it's the giant squid. I want the squid.
The fans are ready for that now. I think fans are ready to see.
We're all ready for the squid.
Well, hey, watch the show. Maybe you might get a bit of squid. Don't know. Okay. Maybe not. You have to check the show out, and then we can talk about it for a video. That would be amazing.
Shall we move on to our little final section? Have a little debrief and discuss what have we been watching this week and what would we recommend. I started watching this week a new TV show. Little one. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. I'm only about 6 episodes in, but I'm really into The X-Files.
No, my God!
I finally started it, and I am so about it. I'm loving it.
Thank God for that.
Thank God. It's like when you were saying, Ben, like it's almost like it was written for me. It's so good. I'm loving the Monster of the Week thing. I like the very 90s feel of it. I like the sort of mystery and investigation as you go to, and then it's got a supernatural element on top for me. I'm loving it. I'm all about it.
Don't they like? Well, we can talk about it in detail, but like they nail it in the first episode. The dynamic, the tone, the characters of Mulder and Scully. They've nailed it out the gate.
Yeah.
And it's because sometimes like Star Trek, like it takes a while for them to kind of find their feet and the character dynamics and stuff. But this one, they've just smashed it. It's a great lead-in, to be fair, because down the line, James, you'll definitely be exposed to Twin Peaks. This is quite an ease way into Twin Peaks because it's very much the same era, same pseudo kind of world, and the tone, the music's quite similar. Cast members from Twin Peaks pop up. We had a mad cast member show up the other week, didn't we, Dan? Don't want to spoil things.
Yeah.
Somebody turned up for Twin Peaks. Not the same characters, but somebody turned up. David Duchovny's in Twin Peaks, not to spoil things, but David Duchovny's in it. Yeah. And some people turned up, and we lost it when somebody turned up the other week.
Yeah. No, that was a great moment, and obvious nod as well, which is it's like all the Twin Peaks people who do turn up, it's quite obvious that it's an intentional casting decision. There was an episode set in the Pacific Northwest, which is Twin Peaks country, like Washington State, and there is a character in that, without saying too much, who was in Twin Peaks and is basically essentially reprising his role in all but name. So I'm glad you're enjoying it there.
What have you watched? I might cut this bit, but what have you seen?
I think about 7 episodes. I think the last episode I watched was the AI. I might have watched one. Hang on, I'll look on IMDb. Have you watched
have you met Victor Toombs?
Yes. Yes.
Yellow.
That's the second. That's like the 3rd episode.
You're the guy with the yellow eyes.
Favorite episode so far.
Cool. I think because episode 8, I think it's called Ice. That's one I'm really big fan of.
I think it was episode 13 or 14, Beyond the Sea.
Ice is my next one. I watched Ghost in the Machine, which was the AI one, and then the next one is Ice.
I don't want to hype you too much, but I personally really like that episode.
Well, we said at the time it was like it felt like the show stepped up a gear, didn't it?
Beyond the Sea it did that.
Yeah. So we're interested in any thoughts on that for sure.
And one of the things I'd like about it is I think it was maybe the first 2 episodes were both aliens and abductions. I was like, oh, is it all gonna be this? I don't know if it's always just and it's aliens that we don't really see. Is it gonna be a bit one note? And then the 3rd one they go more like a supernatural sort of creature thing. I was like, oh, okay. And then they're doing like AI monsters. It's got some variety, and I'm just really enjoying it.
It's everything. Sometimes mostly for the better, sometimes for the worse. Some of the stuff they go
but they try it though. That's the thing. Yeah. At least with some of the episodes that are less good, it still has a setup and payoff, and it's structured well. It's just the actual idea isn't the best idea. So what can you do? At least Mulder and Scully are good regardless so far, anyway. And at least you can have fun with the lesser good episodes because 1 or 2 episodes later you will get a really good one again. So it's not like. But even the lesser good ones, Dan, aren't like.
No, they're still good fun
some of them are the most memorable episodes.
We watched one. In fact, the one after Beyond the Sea we watched, and I don't want to speak much about it, but oh my god, I think it got the best reaction from me and Ben.
How far in are you?
We're like 21 in.
In season 1.
Yeah.
I can absolutely catch up with that.
Yeah, we're going really slowly.
It's just the show that's next on my list. So.
Get started now, Christian.
I was going to say I'll probably end up starting this week.
Yeah, man.
Because the rate you go, Christian, you'll finish half the show by the end of the week. 64 Transformers episodes in a day.
For a 40-minute show, it's a surprisingly easy watch.
Is it only 40-minute episodes as well?
45,
They're paced really well. They're really well structured. I think because they have to write to the advert, it's these great 15-minute chunks.
If I can smash out an entire season of Black Sails in a day, then...
but that annoyed me though. But yes, you can smash out X-Files.
Like sometimes when something's like a bit old and a bit dated, I'm like, because it's a bit off. Like, I think when I tried to watch Buffy at one point, it was like, whoa, this is so 90s. It's a bit jarring. I'm loving it. I love the 90s feel to this with all their like
so
classic suits and all that. It's brilliant.
The big coats, the shoulder pads. It so adds to the charm of it.
Also,
I think it's helped because it's filmed in. It's filmed on film,
Yeah.
so they can make it widescreen.
It's widescreen.
And just as well, before Dan speaks, they redid the special effects a little bit. They touched them up a bit as well, James, just to help a bit with the revamp. Go on, Dan.
No, I was going to say also Gillian Anderson cut this, but Gillian Anderson is sometimes so attractive, and it actually puts me in a bad mood.
I will never attain that.
When she wears them glasses, you can't handle it, can you, Dan?
Yeah.
I did get the sense that there has been like a sort of remaster with it, though, that I'm not watching the original. They have sort of revamped and polished it a bit, which I appreciate as a new viewer in 2021.
It looks really good.
Yeah.
If they can do it, then do it. It's a shame. I think Star Trek isn't. It's still 4x3, which is a bit of a shame.
Am I the only one who gets kind of young Harrison Ford vibes from David Duchovny?
Yeah, actually.
A little bit in looks, and then when he
what you
speaks, I'm like, I feel like there's every now and then I'm like, oh, it sounds a bit like Indiana Jones.
The charm, the wink, the smile.
And he's got the slight
the sort of like
stoned
he's not doing
cadence.
much with his face, but
Cadence.
it's kind of still there.
Yeah.
Would absolutely recommend X-Files. Anyone who's a bit of a Supernatural fan, you just want a new show that you can just whack on, have some bit of mystery and intrigue to it, go for it.
And definitely when we've all finished, if Christian decides to watch it as well, we'll do a big season 1.
It's definitely on
special.
my list.
We're gonna do a big special chat about our kind of favourites. Definitely. Oh, I definitely won't be cutting this bit, this section, because the X-Files.
But yeah, once again, thank you all for listening and watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below. Again, there's another chance here to let us know what you thought of Snyder Cut. Let us know what other cuts you'd like to see. And hopefully, go check out the X-Files, because even though I'm so early days, it's really freaking
on
good.
On Amazon Prime.
Can I just say...
And Disney Plus.
Can I just say, we've forgotten to mention something that we said we would mention.
Oh, yeah.
We got to 100 subscribers.
We did.
Oh, we
did.
did.
Thank you to all 104 of you so far. We do really appreciate all of it.
Yeah, it's very, very cool.
It's a little milestone, isn't it? I think we just wanted to mention it because we do appreciate all 104 of you. Maybe there'll be more of you who join the club by the time this comes out. Who knows?
Hopefully
it's
so.
Just a fun little thing to keep us not going insane during a pandemic because we're not working. It's kind of become a little bit of a thing, so it's quite nice.
It's our
very
little schedule.
sweet.
Yeah.
So like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Share with your friends. Watch the videos.
It's great that we've grown, and it's great that we've grown so fast, because I feel like I don't see other people hitting. Like there's other channels out there that are like years old, where people are still putting out videos that still haven't hit 100 subscribers. So it's like really great that we have hit 100 subscribers before we've even hit 20 podcast episodes.
And also
cool.
we cut this last time. I did mention it, so maybe keep it in this time. But I mentioned that obviously we've got to 100 subscribers, and it's just Zoom calls so far. Pretty much everything is based on a Zoom call.
Yeah.
So I think it's good that we've got to this level so far, but the future is hopefully gonna change. The channel will change.
We've got
shape
big
a little
plans. We've got plans.
Yeah.
Essentially, we're gonna all be when we're allowed. We'll all be in the same room like
Obviously
we originally intended.
The first 1080p video is going to be horrible. We're going to see all the horrible detail of our faces, and it's just going to be horrible what we actually look like.
If this is what I look like in like 240p.
That's it. We all just retain our. This is it. This is our real life resolution.
Yeah, we're filming in 144p. There's no way we're doing 4K.
It's gonna be weird. Yeah, it's gonna be weird, but very exciting.
But maybe I know some of you listening and watching actually like the Zoom calls to some extent and want them to stay. So I mean, we will probably keep that around as well. Who knows? Basically. Oh, my light just changed.
Oh, it's finally fixed itself. Right as we finish. That's great. Yeah,
Well, thank you for all your support so far. I know we're only in days, but we've got big plans going forwards, and hopefully you'll stick with us. So yeah, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
See ya.